There's a new day dawning, the time is at hand, where the glory of the Lord will be revealed to every man. Open the door, open the door, open the door, and let the King of Glory in. Open the door. Open the door, open the door, and let the King of Glory in.
All right, let the King of Glory in. Open up the door. Starts right now. So fling wide, you heavenly gates. Prepare the way of the risen Lord. The Apostle John was on the island of Patmos. He was in prison for the testimony of Jesus Christ. And he heard a sound behind him. He said, I looked. There was a door standing open in heaven. And I heard a voice which was like a trumpet speaking with me, saying, come up here, and I will show you the things which must take place. That's what we need, my friends. We need a heavenly perspective of the things that are going on in the world around us. The things that the Word of God foretold us would come to pass. Those things which must take place. Those things which are taking place even now. That is what this broadcast is all about, discussing the issues of the day concerning the times in which we live from a biblical perspective and worldview. Good afternoon, everybody. Andy White here. What you are about to hear is the fusion of heart, mind, and soul. And I want to welcome everybody from all across the fruited plain and all around the spherical globe. Thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of Open Up the Doors. Hey, if you are tuning in, I am streaming live over on my YouTube channel. If you'd like to join in the conversation over there on YouTube, just look up Andy White, Open Up the Doors, and let me know where you're watching from and introduce yourself and greet one another. Do a great big meet and greet over there on YouTube. That link, the URL link for the YouTube stream, is also on my Open Up the Doors page, so you can access it from the Open Up the Doors page as well. And I would ask that you, everybody listening there, would please also share it into your streams. Share the YouTube live stream right now into your Facebook pages, into your Parler pages, into your wherever you are pages. Oh, there's so many things out there now, MeWe and Gab and all these other platforms that are out there. I would appreciate it so much if you would share this. And if you've never liked the Open Up the Doors Facebook page on Facebook, go on over to facebook.com/faithfm 91.7 and please like the page. All righty. We are streaming, of course, here from the east end of Long Island, from the Faith FM studios. We're streaming over the internet from hamptonschristian.com if you'd like to listen in on your laptop or your desktop or whatever. But the best way to listen to Faith FM, if you are outside of the Faith FM broadcast area, is to download the Faith FM app. It's absolutely free. You can get the app at the Google Play Store for your Android devices or at the Apple Store as well. Just do a search for Faith FM. It's the best way to listen to the broadcast, like I said, all across the fruited plain and all around the spherical globe if you're outside of the FM broadcast signal. All righty, I think that covers my preliminaries. If you'd like to email me, you can email me at ajwhite777@icloud.com. It's ajwhite777@icloud.com. Which reminds me, though, one more thing before I move on. I am on Parler as well. Follow me on Parler. Same thing, AJ White 777. That's AJ White 777 on Parler. Spending most of my time there doing what they do on Parler. They call it parleying, I think. No, not partying, but parleying on Parler, where you can post things freely without being trolled. But, all right, but I got so much to get to, and this week, folks, I'm going to get to it. It's been such a long time, really. It's been such a very long time since I've done a Mideast update as it relates to all things Israel and end times and prophecy that way. You know, I've been doing a series on the Great Reset and whatnot, some of our domestic politics that are going on. But dawned on me just this past week or two that, you know, I really do need to do an Mideast update because of so much that's been going on and so much that's been kind of flying under the radar because we've been so preoccupied with so much that's going on here domestically. Obviously, from the election season and the campaign into the election, into everything that transpired at the beginning of the year and all that's going on here. And we've had to focus on it. We've had to deal with it. We've had to talk about it. But there's so much going on in this great big spherical globe that we're revolving around the sun on, that it's time to get back to doing some things that are going on in the Mideast. And I am well past, just like I said, I'm just well past due on Erdogan in Turkey update, along with Mohammed bin Salman over there in Saudi Arabia, the Iranians. Oh man, there's been a host of things that have been going on over there, and there's this gradually developing chaos that's bubbling up in the Mideast. That's why I want to cover it, because again, we've been so distracted with domestic stuff, but a storm is developing over there once again. And again, I don't want it to fly under the radar by being completely distracted by our domestic politics and circumstances. Even though there's so much we can talk about here, of course. I mean, there's just a chaos and a complete chaos and crisis developing on our southern border. In many ways, I think what's going on here, especially with this new southern border crisis, I think it's being done on purpose, really, for a lot of different reasons, several different reasons, not the least of which I think it's being orchestrated as a purposeful distraction for other things that are going on, as I said, both domestically and geopolitically. And I'm not going to digress that way, but there is this crisis. There are these different crises going on. But right now I want to turn our attention to the Middle East, because when all is said and done regarding eschatology, the Middle East is ground zero. Israel is ground zero. The other day I was thinking, as I was, just going over my thoughts and seeking the Lord and just trying to discern where I wanted to go this week, the idea came to me of, have you ever played 3D chess? Now, I got to admit to you, I have not. I've never played 3D chess in my life. I played regular chess, but 3D chess is something that is, quite honestly, it's fascinating looking, but it's beyond, just looking at it, it looks like it's beyond my cognitive abilities. It's just fascinating to watch. 3D chess is you've got these multiple chess boards. The chessboard is broken up into three different levels. And obviously, it's 3D. It just brings the game into a whole nother realm of thinking and strategizing, allowing the chess pieces to be moved around in these three-dimension physical maneuverings. And I was thinking about that the other day, because even the term he's playing three-dimensional chess, it's become a term that's been used to describe a situation or a strategy that is very complex. It's used to describe something that is a dynamic system with many competing entities and interests. When we use that term, he's playing 3D chess. And that, my friends, that is in so many ways what is exactly going on in the Mideast. Again, when we describe someone as playing three-dimensional chess, the implication is that they're operating on a higher order of understanding and mastery of the system beyond the comprehension of one's peers and ordinary observers who just play regular chess. And some of us can't even barely play checkers. So 3D chess is something, again, it's just something that kind of resonated in my spirit as I began to look at all of this complex and the diverse interests and maneuverings that are going on over there in the Mideast. But let me say this at the outset, that it's totally, of course, it is the Lord God Almighty who is the ultimate chess grandmaster. And there is this cosmic, if you will, there is this cosmic last days strategy, a 3D chess game going on. So let me begin with a little bit of Erdogan. I used to, for years, I was doing regular Erdogan updates, and again, I haven't touched on him for a while, but he hasn't gone away. And just the other day, there was a report in Al Jamaina, which is a Mideast paper, the headline said this, and this is what caught my eye, no pun intended, but the headline read, Erdogan again has his eyes set on Jerusalem. Well, I don't know why they said again. He's never taking them off Jerusalem. But in the story in Al Jazeera, it was reported that last week, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's decision to change the name of the Directorate of Religious Affairs. Now, this is a committee or something in Turkey. There's this thing called the Directorate of Religious Affairs. But Erdogan apparently last week changed the name of this agency in Turkey. He changed the name to the Directorate of Jerusalem and Umrah Affairs, or Umrah Affairs. And the article says it's not about semantics, but substance. Because Erdogan views himself, as I've shared many times, Erdogan views himself as a successor to the line of Ottoman sultans. And he wants to restore the old Ottoman Empire, and he sees himself as responsible for Jerusalem from an Islamic perspective. In his own eyes, Erdogan sees himself as the successor to Salah al-Din Tor and Suleiman the Magnificent. These were famous Ottoman sultans of yesteryear. But Erdogan has adhered to his own dream of a renewed Muslim caliphate with Jerusalem as its capital. So again, last week he changes this agency in Turkey to the Directorate of Jerusalem and Umrah Affairs. Because from Erdogan's point of view, and that of the Palestinians, which he is cozying up to, and he's trying to make himself, Erdogan presents himself to the Palestinians as their defender and savior. But from their point of view, both Erdogan's and the Palestinians, Jerusalem is, quote unquote, under occupation and is of the utmost importance in their minds after Mecca and Medina. They insist that Jerusalem is the third most holiest city in Islam, and therefore it should be part of the Umrah. The Umrah is the regular Muslim pilgrimage throughout the year, unlike the Hajj, which is a one-time pilgrimage, I believe, to Mecca. But in short, to sum up, because I'm going to build something here, I'm going to play 3D chess. Because in short, the bottom line is this. Erdogan fancies himself as being the liberator of Jerusalem. And in a viral video that the Turks produced and put it all over their social media over there in Turkey, they did this video of a Palestinian man who is asking in this video, he's asking urgently for Muslims to come and defend Al-Aqsa. The Al-Aqsa is the mosque up on the Temple Mount. And the video, as this man is pleading for Muslims to come and defend Al-Aqsa, the video quickly shifts to images of ships and planes and military vehicles draped in the Turkish and Palestinian flags. And their destination in the video is, of course, the Al-Aqsa. They're all coming to liberate the Temple Mount from the oppression and the occupation of the Jews. And the video shows a mass of people charging the gates of the compound, pushing back Israel Defense Forces and soldiers, and filling every square inch of the Temple Mount, shouting in this video, Al-Aqsa is liberated, Al-Aqsa is liberated. And then the promotion. This was a TV commercial, social media promotion, folks. I mean, this is how serious they take these things. See, they're not playing games. This is very serious to them. This is how they see this is their worldview. So then, anyway, let's move around some of the 3D chess pieces around the board, because having laid all that out, something very interesting came about this past week. A kind of a somewhat of a new twist, which, by the way, it comports, what I'm about to share with you, comports with the biblical blueprint laid out in Ezekiel 38 and 39. And it's this past week, there's been a lot of tweets going out on Twitter, in the Saudi Arabian version of Twitter, downplaying the importance of Jerusalem. Now, you might say, why does that comport with Ezekiel 38 and 39? Because I don't have the time to get into it all. I've shared about this in the past. But when you look at Ezekiel 38 and 39, you'll see that Saudi Arabia is not part of the Turkish Magog Confederacy. And they protest when Magog comes in and attacks Israel, the Magog Confederacy, which is headed up by Turkey and Persia. When they come in and attack Israel, in Ezekiel 38:13 is this verse. It says, Sheba and Dedan. Sheba and Dedan were ancient, and even today, not even ancient, but even today, modern cities, modern places in Saudi Arabia. So we read in Ezekiel 38:13, Sheba and Dedan, along with the merchants of Tarshish. That happens to be Western Europe, by the way. And I can go somewhere with this right now, but I don't want to digress too much. But it says there, Sheba and Dedan, and all the young lions will say to you, to who? To Magog Confederacy that's invading the mountains of Israel. They say this, have you come to take plunder? Have you gathered your army to take booty, to carry away silver and gold, to take away livestock and goods, to take great plunder? The implication is that Saudi Arabia is reproving and rebuking and pushing back on the Magog invasion. So when I say this, it comports with Ezekiel 38 and 39. That's why I'm saying it. There's a stream of consciousness here. There's a thought here, because in these somewhat surprising developments, and not surprising to me, quite honestly, but this past week, as I said a moment ago, Saudi Arabia Twitter users were downplaying, let that sink in. Saudi Arabia, the Arabs of Saudi Arabia, were downplaying the importance of Jerusalem for Muslims and insinuating that the Jews should control the Temple Mount. Now, that is, in if you don't know the Word of God, if you don't know the Bible, if you've seen what's been going on there for the last, several decades, that is earth-shattering, folks. But for me, it makes perfect sense. And these Saudi Twitter users, this past several weeks, have been pushing a new line of thought, at least in the sense of geopolitics, that plays up the importance of Muslims praying towards Mecca and Medina, which has always been the case, but at the same time downplaying the importance of the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. That's never happened before, and it contradicts what Erdogan is trying to achieve and the Palestinians are trying to achieve. In fact, it's ticked them off, as a matter of fact. But this, and they're calling it in Saudi Arabia, they're calling it somewhat of a controversial campaign, because it seems like something it is a campaign. It's a Twitter campaign that appears to be designed to push the message emphasizing the importance of the Saudi cities of Mecca and Medina as the holy places of Islam, and to eliminate the importance of Jerusalem and the Temple Mount for Muslims, thereby decreasing any Islamic authority the Palestinians have over the sites. And if that happens, and even everyone's recognizing this, the Jews will proceed to try and build their temple on the Temple Mount. One Moroccan Muslim whose profile says he studies Hebrew and wants peace called on his Muslim, this is a quote, called on his Muslim brothers and sisters to join this movement of downplaying Jerusalem and uplifting Mecca and Medina. And this is what he tweeted out. This Saudi Twitter movement believes that there is no importance of the Temple Mount for Muslims. That's radical. That's radical in the world that we live in for the last several decades. Let me read that again. This Muslim guy, I have his name here, but I'm not even trying to pronounce it. But he's from Morocco. He said the Saudi Twitter movement believes that there is no importance of the Temple Mount to Muslims, and the waiting for the Jewish third temple will bring in a new era, one of peace. So he's basically saying, as Muslims, let's forget about El-Aqsa, let's forget about the Temple Mount, give it to the Jews, And according to all this going on, this, as I said a moment ago, has been really ticking off the Palestinians and Erdogan. But this scholar supposedly, he said this, and he was right. He said, here in this report, he said, Muslims were not religiously obligated to help the Palestinians by fighting for Jerusalem, where the Palestinians constantly emphasize that the Al-Aqsa Mosque is the third holiest site in Islam. And this guy is right. You got to bear in mind that Jerusalem never once is mentioned in the Quran. And the idea that that Jerusalem is the third holiest site in Islam is really something more of a present-day political ploy and a construct that is not found in any Quranic tenet of faith. Jerusalem is never mentioned in the Quran. And now you see how this is beginning to play out, folks, before I go to a break? Erdogan is standing up for the Palestinians because he wants to be seen as their defender and their savior. He wants to be seen as the one who will liberate and rule over the Temple Mount, conveniently, openly setting himself up against the Saudis, whom he already hates. The relationship between Turkey and Saudi Arabia has always been tense, and now it's being brought up another notch. So again, my point is, we're seeing these competing and conflicting forces all playing a game of geopolitical Mideast 3D chess. And I haven't even touched upon Iran yet. It's ultimately going to break out in chaos, which is exactly what the scriptures tell us. In Zechariah, behold, I will make Jerusalem. Zechariah 12, verses 2 and 3. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of drunkenness to all the surrounding peoples. And it shall happen in that day that I will make Jerusalem a very heavy stone for all the peoples. And in the meantime, flying under the radar a little bit, because of distractions we've got between coronavirus, so-called COVID-19 relief legislation, and the big crisis that's going on the southern border, what's flying under the radar is that President Biden has slowly been trying to erase Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. He's been working with the Palestinians as well as Erdogan. And just last week in another report, this guy in Israel, Mordecai Kedar, who happens to be Israel's top Arabic culture academic and lecturer at Bar Ilan University, he published an article last Friday stating that Biden was supporting elections in Israel for the Palestinian Authority's leadership, not only in Judea, Samaria, and Gaza, but in East Jerusalem as well. Instead of the Biden administration working with the Israelis, they're working with the Palestinians. That's the bottom line. It's not a surprise, but their interpretation of what's going on from the Israelis' point of view is that this new administration is trying to prove to the world that Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital is no longer valid. And all this is going on, folks. And this guy, well, you know what? I'm going to save it. I'm going to take a break right now so I don't overload everybody, because there is a lot more to this 3D chess game that's going on in the Mideast. But I want you to stick around.
All the nations are gonna be shaken. All the kings are gonna
Here's
be
Rick Pino,
raging.
Kiss the
His
Sun.
power and truth will break in. It's time for the hearts to awaken.
Bow down and we'll kiss the sun. Rick Pino. I absolutely, totally dig that tune. Welcome back. Andy White here. You are listening to Open Up the Doors here on Faith FM, WEGB 90.7 and 93.3 in Napeague, WEGQ 91.7 in Quag. And I am here penetrating the unseen powers of darkness, sending powers and principalities into frothy fits of frenzy by simply speaking the light of truth. Thanks for joining in, everybody. I am streaming live if you're just joining on my Open Up the Doors YouTube account. And I want to get back into what I've been sharing about the Mideast. All the nations are soon going to be shaking. That's why I wanted to play this tune. It was just so apropos. I do want to check in over here at some of the comments here on the comment stream over on YouTube. Hey folks, thanks for joining in over there. They got somebody there who has. I asked up at the top of the show if anybody has ever played 3D chess. I actually didn't expect a positive answer. Somebody did. Well, good for you, bro. It's above my pay grade. Somebody has played 3D chess. I would give it a shot sometime if somebody would show me how to do it. I don't think I would probably be all that successful with it, but who knows? Anyway, that's what this is all about. The complexity of strategy, the things that are going on in a overlapping way with all these different conflicting goals. So some of these factions have similar goals. I mean, you've got and again, I've shared this many times, but the main Axis powers of the Magog Confederacy of Ezekiel 30 and 39 is a whole list of nations there. But the two big powers there are Magog, which is modern day Turkey, and Iran. They're what you could call the main Axis powers. And it remains to be seen how they come together. They have similar goals, but they have contradictory goals. The similar goals is they both want caliphates, but Persia wants a Shia crescent that they've been building on and working on for years now, almost have completed, almost are successful in creating this Shia crescent. A Shia Islamic caliphate. At the same time, as I mentioned a moment ago, Erdogan is looking to revive the Ottoman Empire caliphate. And they're Sunni. So even though they have similar goals of creating an Islamic caliphate, they still coming at it from somewhat different perspectives that are going to seemingly conflict. I think in part that bears some kind of analogy to the statue we see in Daniel chapter 2, I believe it's chapter 2, of the final last days kingdom. You see the 10 toes that are mixed with iron and clay. I can't get into all of that right now. I've talked about that in the past. But I see this mixture of the iron and clay, possibly, I lay this out by way of conjecture, possibly being a last days Islamic caliphate, which we see as Magog, as we see as Sunni and Shia, this mixture of iron and clay. The very word mixture there in Daniel is an Aramaic, ariv. It's the word for, we get the word Arab out of it, which makes that even more interesting. There's a mixture of people there. However, the Turks are not Arabs, and neither are the Persians. So where does this mixture of people? The Bible says they don't mix. Well, you have the other nations that are involved in Ezekiel 38 and 39. You have Ethiopia, you have Sudan, you have Libya. They are Arab nations. And again, I don't want to digress with that too much, but I'm bringing it up right now to show you where this is all going. And what's being laid out right in front of our eyes, these last days prophetic, the Bible lays it out. I don't want to say so clearly, because it's been a mystery for many, but the Bible also says, Daniel, that in the last days there will arise a people who will understand these things, and they become clearer and clearer as we get nearer and nearer. In an interview last week with Fox News, speaking of Persia, speaking of the Iranians and their positioning on this chessboard, Israeli Defense Minister Benny Gantz stated last week in a Fox News interview that Israel is ready to attack Iran without any U.S. help. So even if this administration decides to turn its back on Israel, which there's a lot of indications it will in the end, the Israelis are saying now we don't need America's help. We don't need the world's help. We are ready to attack Iran now because we will not allow them to go nuclear. And the Israeli military has just updated its plans to strike Iranian nuclear sites. And as I said, it's prepared to act independently from the U.S. Furthermore, during a phone call I think it was about a week or two ago, there was a phone call between Kamala Harris and Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, right there, I can go down a bunny trail because we've been all hearing the reports that Kamala Harris has been doing all the outreach to the foreign leaders and not Joe Biden, which is leading to a lot of other rumors and speculation. Again, it's so hard not to digress down these bunny trails. But Netanyahu and Kamala Harris had this exchange a week or two ago where Netanyahu made it abundantly, exceedingly clear that Israel is ready to do whatever it takes to prevent the Iranians from developing their own nuclear weapons. Quote, the Prime Minister said we would continue to strengthen our intelligence and security cooperation with America, but said during their conversation that as Prime Minister of Israel, he is totally committed to preventing Iran from developing nuclear weapons that are meant for our destruction. And of course, my friends, the Iranians are not taking any of this lightly, and they have no plans to back down. In fact, the last several weeks, they've been firing off a lot of missiles into Syria. They've been doing more attacks. They've been upping their attacks against Israel and American forces there in Syria and Lebanon through their proxies there between their main proxy, I believe, is Hezbollah in Lebanon and other factions. The Iranians are on the move, and that makes a military conflict between Israel and Iran very probable. I'm not going to say 100%. Everything's in God's timing, but things are heating up. There will be a war in the Middle East. It's like we've been on the brink of it for so long. But when this war breaks out, when this next war breaks out, and let me say right now for a moment, this next war is going to break out. It's not going to be yet the Magog Ezekiel 38-39 war. I see this all over the internet. Oh, the Magog war is ready to break out. The Magog Confederacy isn't even together yet. There's stuff that has to happen for this confederacy to form. So there's going to be some major wars that break out, but not the Magog war as of yet. The alliance isn't even there. But there's going to be these other major wars that are going to be the precursors and the catalysts, if you will, of bringing together these different factions, so that when this war breaks out, the next war in the Middle East, it's going to be big. The ripple effects are going to be felt worldwide. The ripple effects are going to be world shaking. It may trigger, again, it's conjecture and speculation, but it may trigger World War III. There are things happening all over that. This planet, friends, this planet is a tinderbox. It's a tinderbox. What's going on in the Mideast is a tinderbox. But as I said a moment ago, Israel is preparing, and they're publicly stating it, to attack Iran's nuclear sites. In an interview with an American news outlet, American military news actually reported this, that Israeli Defense Minister Benny Gantz said last Friday, almost a week ago, that Israel has now updated its target list and is preparing to strike Iranian nuclear sites if the world does not stop Iran's nuclear development. That was in American Military News online magazine. And Gantz said if the world would stop the Iranians, that would be really good. But we know the world's not going to stop the Iranians. They haven't done anything. They've done nothing but appease the Iranians. and work around the sanctions and work around the so-called nuclear deal. It's all been a scam. It's all been a charade. We know the world's not going to stop them. But again, the Israelis saying if they stop them, good. But if not, we're going to stand independently because we're going to defend ourselves. But they are hoping, because this game of 3D chess just keeps on developing. Because the Israelis are hoping they won't have to stand by themselves. Because now the Israelis are in talks, of all things. They're in talks with the Saudis. Imagine that. With the United Arab Emirates, with Bahrain, and they're in talks to develop a defense military alliance against Iran. There's been talk that they want to put together a sort of a Mideast version of NATO with Israel, and surprisingly enough, or not so much if you understand Ezekiel, they want to put together this Mideast NATO with the very nations, well, at least Saudi, but Ezekiel talks about, and their young lions, the young lions that stand aloof from the Magog Confederacy. Could that be United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, who are resisting the Magog Confederacy because they're in talks right now with Israel to develop this Mideast NATO, precisely in the face of the threat that's coming from Iran. Now, they're saying that the matter is being informally discussed. That means it's being discussed. That means that these discussions going on behind the scenes, but because it's Israel dealing with these Arab nations, they don't want to completely upset Muslims worldwide, so they're going to do things a little bit at a time. But these things are coming together. Do you see the 3D chess imagery that I was getting at the other day when I was walking along the beach, and why I think it's just so apropos? Because all this is coming together. The Turks and Erdogan hate the Saudis. The Iranians hate the Saudis. The Saudis hate the Iranians. All of these different moving pieces are working. And you've got the death to Israel chanting Iranian ayatollahs who aren't taking any of this sitting down. And the Iranian defense minister, Amir Hatami, just the other day, threatened to level Tel Aviv and Haifa to the ground if Israel did in fact conduct a preemptive attack on Iran. But since they're always saber-rattling, and since they're always threatening to level Israel, and it always seems to boil down to just saber-rattling and rhetoric, but since this threat has been so much like that, Hatami reinforced it by saying this time he had orders from the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, to translate those words, that rhetoric, into an active operation. And as I said, they have been doing this. Tehran has, through its proxies, the Lebanese Hezbollah, they've been carrying out all kinds of things against Israel and in Syria, as I said a moment ago. But to seriously damage Tel Aviv, Tehran would have to do its own work with ballistic missiles, which they have been testing. Folks, I'm going to go to another break, but listen to this. We know this. We've seen it. We've lived it for years. The Mideast is a powder keg. It's always been a powder keg. It's a global disaster waiting to happen. And things have been heating up lately. But it's almost like we haven't been paying much attention to them, as I said a moment ago in the first block, because of our distraction with things here domestically. But there is this multiplicity of overlapping and conflicting interests at work. Again, hence my allusion to 3D, game of chess. And there's little doubt in my mind. There ought to be little doubts in anyone's mind who knows the Word of God, that the time clock is running down to the final countdown of the ultimate end game. But stick around, folks. I'll be back with more. Here's Third Day, Run to You. In these days in which we live, we need to be in the arms of Jesus, running to Him.
I was tired of waiting, playing all the games and living in a place that was not for me.
Fusion of Heart, Mind, and Soul. This is Open Up the Doors with Andy White here on Faith FM, WEGB 90.7, 93.3 in FB, WEGQ 91.7 in Quad. Thanks for joining in to this week's edition of Open Up the Doors here on Faith FM from the east end of Long Island. Hey, if you would like to partner with us, please visit us over at hamptonschristian.com. We are a commercial-free Christian broadcasting station. We could use your love offerings. Visit us at hamptonschristian.com, and there are different options there for you to be able to contribute as the Lord would lead you. One-time offering, monthly offering, yearly offering. If you'd like to sponsor this broadcast, it would be such a blessing to me. Nobody here gets paid at the radio station. All of the funds, the finances are for the maintaining and the producing of the radio broadcast. It costs quite a bit of money on a monthly scale to broadcast. There's all kinds of expenses and overheads, none of which is anyone on salary or being paid. We all do this as a love offering unto the Lord, so we'd appreciate your love offerings to help us out if you could. Also, before I get back into some closing thoughts, I am, as I've said throughout the broadcast, I do have a YouTube channel. If you've never subscribed to my YouTube channel, please go on over there, hit the subscription button, hit the little notification bell next to the subscription button, and you will get notifications of when we go live on YouTube. If you'd like to do that, I'd appreciate that as well. Also, we are also on Rumble, another video platform, that free speech platform. Looking forward to the day when Rumble goes live stream. They're supposedly working on that. They're not a live streaming service yet, I should say, but I am on Rumble. And one more thing I want to mention before I move on is my Connect Zing account. I know there's all these different social media accounts. I was thinking about this the other day. I shouldn't say. I don't want to take up too much time. I don't want to digress. Listen, I have an Open Up the Doors group over on Connect Zing. I would love for you to please join Connect Zing. It works just like Facebook does. I've been developing my presence over there on Connect Zing. The groups work like the groups on Facebook. I don't have an Open Up the Doors group page on Facebook. I do have the page, but I started the group over on Connect Zing because I want to expand out of Facebook. I really do. We are so conditioned, folks, and Facebook abuses us, and Facebook trolls us, and Facebook just I've had it with them. I'm gonna keep my presence over there, but I'm spending most of my time both on Parler and Connect Zing, and I want to encourage you. I know it's hard. It's hard to break habits. I've seen a lot of people come on over to Connect Zing, sign up, and then don't come back. I grant you, it doesn't have the traffic yet that Facebook has, but we need to. When persecution broke out against the church in Jerusalem in the book of Acts, persecution broke out, Acts chapter 6, chapter 7, and the church was it was spread, and it needed to be spread. And I think one of the good things that's happened with the censorship of Twitter and with the censorship of Facebook, I think in as an allegory, as something analogous to this, is that all these other social media platforms are now springing up that we're all kind of going to because of the persecution. That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. Get us out of our Facebook ghetto. Anyway, I've said more than I wanted to say on that, but I would appreciate it so much if you joined the group over on connectzing.com. All right, I got a few minutes left here, and there's so much more to get to in my Mideast updates. All of this stuff, it's like the skin on an onion. There's so many different layers. But this past week, as many of you probably know, the Pope went and visited Iraq. First time in history any Pope, as far as I know, has ever visited Iraq. And the Pope went to Iraq last week, and of course, the way the media played it out, he was preaching a message of peaceful coexistence, urging coexistence and the safety for all, because he's in the Mideast, and you got, as I've been laying out for this entire broadcast, you've got all these factions with all these conflicting agendas, and this is where war has always broken out. So the Pope goes there, and it was interesting the way some of the media frame this, and I hope I have enough time to get through some of the stuff I want to get to here. But the Jerusalem Post said this regarding Pope Francis's trip to the Middle East. Jerusalem Post: Pope Francis's trip to the Middle East has illustrated the drive for coexistence that is possible in the region. During a visit to Iraq, the Pope also sent a message to President Reuven Rivlin. To His Excellency Reuven Rivlin, that's the president of Israel, as the Pope flew over Israel, he gave them a message. Here it is. Entering Israeli airspace on my apostolic journey to Iraq, I send warm greetings to you and the people of the nation. He's speaking to Israel, praying that Almighty God will bless all with His gift of harmony and peace. And the writer in Jerusalem Post said the message to Israel, coinciding with the historic visit to Iraq, brings hope to the region. I won't digress. They are part of a larger process that is taking place here. Oh, I don't even know if he realizes what he's saying. There is a larger process that is taking place there. As many countries see the birth of coexistence that is framed with peace deals such as the Abraham Accords. Now, folks, the Pope's meeting with Muslims and leading clerics there in Iraq, it really was a continuance and a follow-up to a declaration he had signed about 2 years ago. He signed a declaration. Some of you might remember this. I covered it at the time on this broadcast. He signed a declaration with Ahmad al-Tayyib, who is the Grand Imam of the Al-Azhar University, and that's basically Sunni Islam's papal equivalent to the Vatican. In February of 2019, the Pope and this Ahmed al-Tayyib, they signed a document called Document on Human Fraternity and Living Together in Abu Dhabi. The Abu Dhabi Declaration, it was called in short. And this declaration was again supposedly to unify amongst the major monotheistic faiths of the world. This merging of Islam and Judaism and Christianity. And after the declaration, the Abu Dhabi government ordered the construction of what is being called the Abrahamic Family House. It's being built on Saadiyat Island. It's going to open next year. It wasn't just rhetoric. They're building this huge religious center. It's going to contain a mosque, a synagogue, and a church, all within the same building, different wings of the building on this ground. It's called the Abrahamic Family House. This place of worship will feature, as I said a moment ago, 3 structures: a mosque, a church, a synagogue. It will also be, it's going to have these big gardens. It's going to be a nice place, a museum, an education center where visitors can learn about religious tolerance. Now, here's the hypocrisy of all this. Never mind the fact that Ahmed al-Tayyib signed this declaration, but this Grand Imam has sanctioned homicide, bombing murders of Israeli Jews. He has openly equated the Jews and even civilian Jews with Zionists, while invoking a Quranic verse in the Quran 582, which is a central anti-Semitic verse. I'm running out of time, so I'm not going to get into it. Point is, again, I see elements here of a false prophet and the system of the beast coming together that we talked about. I can't get into all that right now because I'm running out of time. I've only got a few minutes left. How many remember Phil Haney? You might think I just jumped. Phil Haney was a former DHS guy that used to be on Fox a lot. he became a whistleblower in the Obama administration. He was murdered a couple of years ago. The official reports that he committed suicide. Nobody believes he committed suicide. He was onto something, and he was a whistleblower, and he wrote a book saying, what was the name of his book? Let me see it here. See Something, Say Nothing. And he was exposing how the Obama administration had all these Muslim Brotherhood people within it, and how the Muslim Brotherhood had infiltrated the American government. And I'm saying this quickly because I'm running out of time. He was murdered. He was assassinated. And there's a report. And I'm going to put this report up on my Open Up the Doors page. I'm going to put this report up on my Connect Zing group page. You've got to read this story. But this guy, Phil Haney, he was onto something. And in his final interview, he was talking with somebody on the phone. There's a phone conversation, and he was ready to spill the beans, so to speak, about how there was this one world religion coming together that America was supporting, called the where is it here? It was called the Abrahamic Initiative that Callista and Newt Gingrich are pushing for. Anyway, he was exposing all this stuff. I'm out of time, but it was essentially the creation of a new one world religion, and it's gaining momentum. That's one of the reasons why the Pope went to Iraq, to further this alliance between Islam and Judaism. We know the Bible talks about these things. My friend, we understand there's a whole lot going on. There's a whole lot of moving parts in this game of 3D chess. And the reason that I share so many of these things that I do with you is because I want to give you, this audience, and as many people as I possibly can, an informed awareness of what's really going on all around us regarding these prophetic times in which we live. I want you to be aware. I want you to be prepared in your heart and in your mind so that you'll be able to stand. You'll be able to stand strong, redeeming the time, because the days are evil, brothers and sisters, and we are living in exciting times. And I wish I can do so much more, but I'm out of time and I got to run. In the meantime, watch, stand fast in the faith, brothers and sisters. Be brave, be strong, and let all that you do be done in love. Until next week, brothers and sisters, God bless. Thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of Open Up the Doors.